Alrighty, welcome back everybody to another market day. I'm your designated Inquirer. My name is Axel and today is 9/14 of 2020. Now, let's take a look real quick at what Tesla did today. Okay, because where it moved to recently is kind of important. It may seem, I'm not exactly sure how this progressed during the day, but if it shifted the point of control up, then this is significant. If not, if it was here, it went down lower, and now the point of control is here, what it may do is it may go further down. It may deposit some more volume here, execute some more volume here, shift the control point down here, and then continue to move further down. But that's only a possibility. It's only a possibility of what could happen with the dispersion of volume, of total volume dispersed throughout the month. We're kind of hanging around a different, basically a separate point of control for the previous month, which makes sense, so that we could be moving basically from one area to another. It's perfectly normal. The fact that we went down basically pretty far past hugging along the lower band is significant. That we came back and visited and crossed through basically the VWAP is normal. Is to be expected almost. The part that's not as expected was that today it had basically a 12.58% climb. So from the bottom, we have recovered. It's had a 40% run from the bottom. From the top, it's only come down 20.5%. So it can do a lot in a lot of different directions here. The move from the bottom is pretty significant. We are basically, you guys take a look right here, we are in overbought territory. And our momentum to the upside is not very high. The difference and discrepancy between these two lines is not super wide, that it can basically be chopped up in a move from one day to the next, basically later tonight, depending on what overseas markets decide to do, can happen. Even later today, it can basically turn around if they want to. Point being, this probably points to more danger than not, and whether or not it can sustain the high throughout the overnight extra hours trading remains to be seen. The last time that happened, that we were basically oversold or overbought into extra hours, we saw a pretty significant collapse the next morning. It can happen where you basically run overbought and can't continue the next day, but the momentum was already in a very positive state, and you had recently gotten basically a positive signal that momentum was shifting into your favor. So are those things happening right now? Not exactly. It has already been basically, momentum had been more or less somewhat positive for a good amount of time. This run up of 40% is pretty significant. To be overbought is already like an amazing feat in and of itself if we are shifting from a bull to a bear, which we don't exactly know yet, hasn't been necessarily confirmed. And the rest of the market is not necessarily in a place where it can basically tell you, hey, this is an excellent time to make another bull run for the all-time high. Because one, there isn't really all that much information to be able to push the stock into all-time highs unless we go into, this is a pre-run up to before battery day. If this is a pre-run up to before battery day, which is later on this month, pretty sure, Let me go here. Let me take a look here real quick. Tesla battery dates. September 22nd. It's not even this week, it'll be the following week. So if it decides to do a run up this week or 2 weeks from now to try and settle in on new all-time highs for that date, that's, I don't know if that's going to be the case. And considering that they've already postponed it, would they have to postpone it again? I don't know. But the postponement in the first place, if it was only for coronavirus sake, may or may not actually give the best indication that it may or may not be a blockbuster like presentation, right? And we already know that basically Tesla sold some of its stock, offered some of its stock that it had previously bought back up here. So more than likely what we're gonna see is that there's gonna be a ceiling that we hit not too I don't think not too far from now. Probabilistically speaking, that's what could happen. I don't know what may actually happen, but that's what could happen. So yeah, that's my best guess and my breakdown for what happened on Tesla. Now let's move on to Nasdaq. NQ. All right, let's take a look at the NQ. For what happened today? Today we had some pretty low volume. All right, so let's go over to the day. Here, all right, we actually had an increase in volume. There's still that bug on that one day last, I believe it was Thursday, where it records very low volume. But if we go to the 2 hour, what we end up seeing it was a couple days ago, it's actually higher volume. So this is still pretty strange. I don't know why this would have low volume, extremely low volume by comparison. So yeah, that one's kind of strange. I still don't know how to represent that correctly because it's extremely low. Anyway, from here we go ahead and we expand out what this is here. What we got as of Friday, we had a drop of 67% on the volume. Now 67% is pretty significant. It is pretty close to 70, but it does not necessarily mean that we are done with the move completely. It may be that we need to be over 70% as far as drop in volume. So we don't exactly know yet. Right now, to here, it's only 54% drop. It is an increase on a positive day. So that does present like an indication that, you know, maybe people are ready to, you know, jump in. So tomorrow we've got a put up or shut up situation where bears basically have to bring down the hammer, or this could be the break in terms of like the down move, and we're getting ready to move to the upside again on not a whole lot more better economic information. We still have restrictions or contractions in lending. We still have interest rates that are pretty low, which is supposed to be good for lending, but the fact that banks are not lending as readily, even though rates are extremely low, presents a problem of there being a tightening financial environment, and all of these things kind of present problems. So yeah, right now, well, let's take a look. Let's take a look a little further. Let's go into the 2 hour here. Here, we're still technically in negative momentum. The last time around, the market did manage to make a turnaround as it was almost pulling out of negative momentum into positive momentum. The same kind of story is kind of happening right now, where we could basically have a muted overnight, and then where the rest of the world doesn't necessarily have too much confidence in this run up, and that tomorrow we've got basically a dump. That could happen, where we basically turn over, we get a red signal that basically means that momentum is kind of taking a turn. If we're already into negative momentum, and this from this last time around, this could mean that we basically break through this resistance level of 10,935.25 on the E-mini Nasdaq, on the Nasdaq 100, and we continue on this downturn. If that's the case, it would most likely bring down also Tesla, which is, I think, is part of the Nasdaq. I'm pretty sure it is. Tesla, Nasdaq. Is it a component? It is. Yeah. So it is a component of the Nasdaq 100. It is currently number 7 and is weighted to 3.073%. Yep. So if the Nasdaq goes to drop, it's mostly going to be taking Tesla along with it, along with Apple, along with Nvidia, which is right here, along with Adobe, PayPal, and a few other companies. So, you know, the bloodbath may continue. Bloodbath, but that's only for people who happen to be long. It's not necessarily a position you have to take, and or you can stay in cash. You can stay in cash for when basically the dust settles. There is ample opportunity for then basically discounted stocks on good companies that can present growth later on down the line, right? Where when we start to see growth in jobs created, where we start consistent growth in jobs created, where we don't have a precipice to fear in terms of the downturn in economic activity, considering that we still don't have any stimulus. When we finally have like some sort of large spending bill by Congress that's either equal to or greater than the one that we saw in terms of being able to get people money directly, and or doing basically a large jobs bill, which is a large injection of cash into the greater economy that pays people, not necessarily companies, and shores up companies. Then we can basically start to see a more broadening improvement in the economy. When that starts to happen, then you can start to see more readily increasing earnings, increasing jobs reports, increasing CPI, and all these other things. When they decide to pull it back, etc., there may be like a little bit of a dip, etc., but by then it'll be a lot easier to see an improvement in the foundation of the economy, not just the top line for a few companies. When we see a more broader expansion of the economy, that's when it'll be safer I feel like it'll be safer to jump in. But that's probably not going to happen soon, because we still have that giant cliff of October the 1st to deal with. So even though today we had a positive day, it is not something that I am looking at with great great optimism at the moment, because even though it was a positive day, let's assume here, let's move this back down. Let's go ahead and remove all the studies. Just take a look at basically just movement here. We do have a little bit of a top wick, okay? Basically started off the day strong. There was no lower movement from the beginning of the day, but we do have basically a top that we set, and that we were that we ran up high and then dipped back lower to a certain extent. We haven't topped this top right here, which is a level of about 11,570. We haven't topped that yet. The general market as a whole has not gone and topped that. We were barely able to just barely come up above what was basically Friday's level, Friday's high. But that does not include Thursday or any of last week's highs, anything like that, even though it was a short week. Maybe that's what this day presents here, is probably that short day on Monday. I'm not exactly sure. It's still a little bit of a mystery for me, but yeah. In terms of what tomorrow can bring, right now the market is moving a little bit higher, probably off of what some companies had reported. We have basically the close of the day, and we have start of a new day and a increasing in prices. So maybe they're trying to just overseas markets are trying to test these highs that, even though we did move down from, is still relatively close. So well, at least this local high, maybe not these highs, but maybe this local high. We'll see what it does. We'll be keeping an eye on it until tomorrow morning, where we see where we open up. But the market can, as always, go in any direction, depending on what exterior stimulus the market absorbs and decides to go in a different direction. Still, the overwhelming pressure, like from the bond market, let's look at TLT. Tomorrow, there is another 20-year bond auction, so this price is probably going to be moving. This probably did see a lot of stabilization here, but then probably expecting there to be another auction tomorrow. So as of tomorrow morning, I'm not exactly sure when the auction starts and is executed, but we'll probably be seeing more exotic movements from the bonds, because Friday it was basically a standstill, and today there was some movement, but it wasn't something to write home about. Generally we are still higher. Generally this does mean that there is less money circulating to be traded for equities, and also gold did go up and so did Bitcoin. So not only did equities get some gain today, but also those other equity alternate investment vehicles. So yeah, that means quite a few things. Something that I want to point out though before we go is that as equities drop, if you don't see a subsequent rise in bond prices, that means that there is some money freely floating about, waiting for an opportunity to probably jump back into equities. So if it's not moving into gold, if it's not moving into Bitcoin, if it's not moving into bonds, there's probably a good chance that you probably see a drop and a pop back up, which is probably what we were kind of seeing a little bit with rates staying stable, even though they were high, stable, while we did see a drop in the market as of Friday, at least at the end of Friday as well. Today we also saw a drop at the end of the day, but we overall basically kept the same levels, and so there was probably some money in the system to rally maybe tomorrow morning, unless bonds go up tomorrow morning before the open. So I feel like that's probably something to look out for into tomorrow. So till then, I wish you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and till next time, take care. Bye.